That was a hell of an episode. A lot happened, and it's going to be a little bit difficult to talk about all of it without this video coming out half an hour long. So I'm going to focus primarily on the Nigmabblepot stuff, and then hopefully have time left over afterward. We only saw Nigmabblepot interact one time, and it was over a phone call, which kind of took me back to season 2 a little bit, because Oswald was calling Ed at work and pestering him, bothering him endlessly about something Ed didn't find important, and he's like, oh my god, will you please just let me get my job done here? I don't care about whatever your weird issue is right now. Just figure it out and solve it on your own. I love that interaction because they're being pretty domestic together. It sounds like a married couple where one's just bothering the other one like, did you remember to bring the milk home? And the other's like, do you think I would forget that? It's also further proof that Oswald relies on Ed for a lot, even just making his mayoral decisions. He just can't do anything without talking to Ed first. And the other part of the phone call that made me laugh and was like, oh my gosh, you guys are like super, super tight, was the fact that Ed turned back to Tabitha and Butch once he hung up the phone, and I believe he called Oswald like selfish or self-centered or something like that, but it was in the calmest, chillest way ever, as though he was saying what the weather was like outside. That's probably Oswald's biggest vice in Ed's mind, and it doesn't bother him further than, well, that was a minor inconvenience, which is kind of cool because people have been wondering, well, where does Ed stand with Oswald? We know Oswald's in love with Ed. Just that single line tells us that Ed accepts every part of Oswald, no matter how good or bad it is, which also tells us that Ed's grown a lot since season 2, because when Penguin was behaving a little bit better in season 2, it kind of freaked Ed out because he was only just beginning to realize who he was, and he kicked Penguin out. This time, I mean, Penguin spent the better half of this season behaving himself fairly well during his mayoral campaign and everything, from what we saw anyway, and it didn't really bother Ed in the slightest. So now he's grown up enough that he's like, okay, no matter what Penguin is doing, this person is an important part of my life and I care about him. Now, for the part that made everybody in the audience go, after Ed tortured Tabitha and Butch for quite some time, Butch accidentally let it slip that he was not, in fact, the person who killed Isabella. And I thought that scene was kind of interesting. I mean, you get past the initial shock of, oh, now he knows. And you go into, well, here comes very human Nigma again. I hate when people think that he's got, like, basically almost no emotions and he's just a plank pretty much, because once he realized he was torturing the wrong people, he did feel at least a little remorse. He could have gotten in a lot of trouble. They could easily say, yeah, her hand was cut off by this loon over here. He knows that, and he's still like, well, I'm responsible for this, so I need to make sure that I get them out of here so they can get to the hospital. Now, for the very scary part of this episode in terms of the Nigmabblepot stuff, Barbara knows, which isn't great because Barbara on some very big level is incredibly self-serving, and she's very vengeful, and Penguin has crossed her multiple times now, and now more than ever, since Tabs has lost one of her hands, she has reason to screw with him and bring him down, and she has the perfect ammunition for that now. All she has to do is drop a big enough hint to Ed that Penguin killed Isabella because he's in love with him, and she knows that she can rip them apart. At least she thinks she can. Now, for the next episode, we saw a little leaked video and some leaked photos. And in the video, we see Ed in like a garage or a warehouse of some kind with Tabitha and Barb, and they're talking to only him, which is interesting already because I don't see them as Ed's biggest fans, which means they're doing something crafty. I don't think that Barbara is going to just completely spill the beans all at once, because why in the world would Ed believe her if she just came out of the blue and was like, oh, by the way, it was your best friend that killed your girlfriend, and it's because he's in love with you. Like, that sounds ridiculous, especially to someone who doesn't pick up on social cues very well. I think what she's going to do is kind of get on his level. She knows that he understands life as a game, basically. He likes to follow clues that lead him to, whatever the ultimate answer is. I think she's going to set something up kind of like that for him. She's going to drop big enough hints when she talks to him that he gets an idea of who may have killed Isabella, and that he gets an idea of why, but I don't think she'll actually come out and say it. She knows that he has to find the answer himself. So I think that a lot of Ed's scenes in the next episode are going to be him kind of slowly understanding that Penguin killed Isabella and why he did it, but also having a difficult time coming to terms with it and doing all he can to try to prove that that theory is wrong, until he ultimately realizes, no, this is all that really makes any sense. Now we come to the promo for our next episode. I know that there was something in it that scared a lot of people, and that is Oswald and Ed are in a room that's filled with people. Oswald's standing behind Ed. He looks pretty nervous, and Ed is pulling a switchblade. Everyone's first reaction to this, I think, was sheer panic, because we all know, based on their past behavior, they don't really care how many people are in the room. If one of them is angry, they're just gonna stab somebody. And let's face it, anyone in their friendship circle, or the circle of people that they trust and work with, isn't really gonna care if they stab somebody. And at this point in time, I don't think that either of them would care if the group pounced on them afterward. That being said, I think that Ed's pulling a knife to threaten him more than to actually hurt him. I think that deep down, no matter what Oswald does, Ed still has that nagging voice in his head saying, this man created you. He's the reason why you are, in his mind, the best version of you now. And he's given you a home. He broke you out of the place that was making you depressed. He's giving you everything. And now he knows he loves him. It's going to be very difficult for Ed to actually physically hurt Oswald. And even if he managed, it would be like a minor injury he can recover from very easily. And I think Ed would feel really bad about it. He's always going to come back to him. There's one of those dynamics between two characters where no matter how badly they hurt each other, they always find their way back to one another. And it's kind of sad. It's almost tragic in a way, but it's also really beautiful. So maybe the knife will be used, but I doubt it will be in an attempt to seriously harm or kill Oswald. I think it's mostly going to be used to scare him, because no matter how many clues Ed has, remember, he doesn't pick up on social cues very well, and he needs that solid answer. He needs you to actually look him in the eye and tell him, yes, I feel sad today, and here is why. This is what you did. I feel happy with you today, or proud of you, and here's why. This is what you did. He needs it solidified like that. And more so than ever now, since this is someone he's actually close to, I think he's going to threaten Oswald with the knife, because he knows that even if he does not intend to harm Oswald, it will jar him enough that he will say something. He will admit the truth, because I think that ultimately Oswald can't keep this charade up for too long, because it's hard to lie to someone you love. Where does that leave Nig Mobblepot? Let's think about how unique their relationship has been thus far. Twice now, Oswald has pulled a knife on Ed with intent to harm or kill, and both times Ed bounced back very gracefully. The first time was in season 2, when Ed said that Gertrude was Oswald's greatest weakness, and Oswald didn't take that very well and pulled a knife on his throat. And Ed kind of sweet-talked his way out of it, saying, hey, you know, I know that losing your mother was rough and everything, but it's made you stronger, hasn't it? And Oswald had that light bulb moment. And the second time was towards the beginning of this current season, when he was running for mayor and he thought that Ed had trashed his campaign. Just something of that caliber was enough to send him over the edge and have everybody basically pull a gun on Ed and threaten to kill him. And again, he bounced back. He was like, just hold on a minute, I've got proof that everything is fine here. If they can get over Oswald trying to kill Ed twice now, I'm pretty sure they can get over this. I think that we might have a couple of episodes where Ed's having a hard time, but I think he's going to find his way back to Oswald and their relationship will be stronger than ever for a couple of reasons. One being what I've already mentioned, the fact that they kind of made each other. They've lifted each other up when they were at their lowest. They caused each other to become what they are now, which is something they're both very proud of. And both of them are the only one in the other person's life who cares about them and loves every single aspect of who they are, no matter how quirky and weird it is. The other reason I think that they're going to emerge stronger than they ever have been is because I highly doubt Isabella was there for no reason. It was just too weird that she knew things about Ed and Kristen that I doubt you could just find in a newspaper. Maybe you can find what she looks like and the basics of her job, but you're certainly not going to know as much as she seemed to know about either of them. It was weird. And too weird to even just be a stalker or a fangirl or something. I think that at some point in the next few episodes we're going to find out who she really was and why she was there. And I think Ed's going to find out too, and that's when he's going to have that realization that, oh my gosh, if Penguin hadn't had her killed, I'd probably be dead right now or in way too deep. It was kind of a selfish act at the time, but in a way, he sort of just saved my life and kept me from making the biggest mistake I've ever made. And I think that in their own weird way, that's gonna just make them tight. So as always, I'm feeling pretty positive about it. I think that since they said in episode 14, they're gonna come to an understanding. They're gonna start realizing they both feel the same, which I'm very excited about because I think it's kind of funny when people freak out that it's not like the comic books because one, neither of them has had like too serious of relationships, depending on which universe you read. Like, Batman goes all over the place. This is the thing. Depending on what comics you read, you can have people be like married who aren't usually married, or have them be gay, or have them be changed into like a woman if they were a man, or a man if they were a woman. Like, it goes all over the place. You can't say, oh no, this is how it was in the comic books, because it depends on which one you were reading. And Gotham has kind of created its own world for itself. I think it would be really cool if after Gotham itself is finished, they waited like a year and then did their own Batman TV show. That'd be so cool. They just kept all the same people on it. And can you imagine, like, Nick Marblepot is one of the power couples. Like, they're the ones you have to get information from, but you really don't want to get information from them because you know that there's going to be like a favor involved and stuff. They have their own little weird mafia going on, and whenever they need to like interrogate somebody, Penguin just hands the person off to Ed, and he ends up like playing some kind of horrible riddle game with them to get the information. Just, oh, it would be so cool! As always, I hope that this video helped your Nick Marblepot positivity get elevated, because we certainly need it when people start freaking out like they have been. And I'm hoping this video gets uploaded today. This time I didn't get to plan ahead because there's an American holiday, which kind of gets in the way. There's a lot of holidays coming up. My high holiday is on December 22nd, and then my family's is on the 25th, so I'm going to be very busy at that point. But I'll still keep trying to put up these videos for you guys, and I hope that you have fun listening to me just ramble on about these two. Bye, bye, bye. Hope you have fun.